Love your enthusiasm.
This guy.
Well, hi everyone.
Why is the music still playing?
It's a great day on First Things First as we prepare to just relax a little bit. Act like gentlemen as we prepare for Game 5 of the NBA Finals. It's not Celtics in 6, and it's not a Celtics sweep. It's a gentleman's sweep. Stay with us. No hands. Today, why one person here thinks Luka can win the Finals MVP.
What?
Even if he loses.
What?
What would valuable mean then? Meanwhile, after a 15-point performance, are we going to finally see a good Tatum game tonight? I hope so. And lastly, no show at minicamp. The latest report/speculation has Aaron Rodgers perhaps
Kicking it. Doing drugs. That's the answer.
in the jungle.
Doing drugs.
Guns N' Roses.
Is it different when you do it there than if you do it in here?
100%.
Yeah. It is.
Yes. If you're in like a beautiful
Well,
place.
in terms of what's legal and illegal.
Yeah, of course.
But in terms of reality?
Alongside Chris Broussard, I'm Kevin Wilds. I'll be coming in and out of gentleman mode as the show progresses, so stay with us. Nick, do you have any takes, or do you want to tickle the ivories a little bit?
I feel like this first 90 seconds is a nadir of our television.
Wow, I do like the large vocabulary. Two gentlemen. But we're going to start with the Dallas blowout on Friday.
Tell me, please, what nadir means.
Low point, Brew, low point. You're an English major. Come on.
Mavs win Game 4 by 38. We're up at 1 point by 48. Celtics mustered a measly 35 points at halftime. Luka had 29 in 32 minutes. Here he is after the game.
And it doesn't change anything. Like I said at the beginning of the series, it's first to 4. And we're going to believe till the end. So we just got to keep going. I have big belief in this team that we can do it. So we just got to keep believing.
Okay. What's the number one reason the Mavs blew out the Celtics, bro?
Well, look, Luka was played really well, including defensively. You know, you saw him more effort on that end. He obviously wasn't engaging with the refs as much. So Luka was very good. Kyrie was very good. And some of the role players, Derek Lively played great, right? He had 10 rebounds in the first half.
Yeah.
The Maverick or the Celtics as a total team had 13.
And
at halftime.
Lively had 10 rebounds in the second half of Game 3.
Yeah.
So he had
he's
20
right.
rebounds over a four-quarter stretch.
in a game, essentially, right. But that 13 to 10 rebounding advantage for the Mavericks in the first half, or for the Celtics in the first half, that Celtics over Lively. That brings me to the real answer to your question. Celtics complacency.
There we go.
I mean, look, I'm not saying the Mavericks could not have beaten them if the Celtics are fully engaged, right? But to lose by 38, down by 48, as you said, that obviously is complacency. And Lively's rebounding, I mean, at halftime, it was 29 rebounds for the Mavericks, 13 for the Celtics. Of course, and this has been an even series. Or in the first 3 games, I think the Mavericks had like 5 more rebounds total than the Celtics. So it's virtually even. Rebounding, we know, is largely an effort stat. And so this just shows that human nature, we know that the Celtics like to play with their food anyway. Right? They lost to Miami in Game 2, Cleveland in Game 2. And that was one reason I had questions about them winning the whole thing, was that sometimes they just are incredibly absent when they should be present. And this game, I thought, was just a primary example. So while I credit the Mavs for coming out, we saw this with the Lakers beating Denver down 3-0. We saw it with Minnesota coming out. Not this type of blowout, but beating Dallas down 3-0. And that's what we saw in this game. So credit the Mavs, but the Celtics just didn't show up.
The Celtics didn't show up. Jason Kidd had an interesting quote before the game. He said one of these teams is going to be given, someone in this game is going to be given the opportunity to let go of the rope, and we'll see if they do it. And he didn't say which team he was talking about.
Right.
He was basically saying it could happen to us, to where if we're down early, down 3-0, let go of the rope. And it could happen to Boston, ostensibly for these reasons. Up 3-0, down big early, why why put in the full effort? But so Luka finished with 29 points, but that doesn't matter. What mattered was the 25 in the first half. And yes, he wasn't barking at the refs, but he also, this time when he was fouled, was getting the calls. Like Luka and the refs sometimes is a little circular, which is if he's not getting the calls, he barks more, it looks worse. If he is getting the calls, people are like, oh, Luke is on better behavior. And it's like, well, he just has less to be mad about. And so but he did clearly game 3, it got away from him. And in this game, I think maybe it could have. I'm not ready to say
I think it was definitely something he was trying to
I agree,
work on.
but also if early in the game a couple egregious ones went against him, I wonder if he wouldn't have been able to kind of shout down that devil on his shoulder. But to me the biggest reason was the Mavs role players hit threes. Luka was outstanding, A-plus playoff offense Luka for the first half when it mattered, and they scored.
Yeah.
The Mavs, and this is why I got so frustrated with the commentary last week. And I know that everybody, when I pointed out that Luka leads the Mavs in defensive rating, and immediately said that stat stinks. But the point I was on the season, top 2 in the league in defensive rating, Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama. So in some regards, we think it's a legitimate stat. And I thought Luka's bad defensive moments were so flashing red light awful, it made it seem like that was the reason they were down 0-3, when I thought the reason they were down 0-3 was because for the first time in his entire career with Kyrie Irving, they didn't score 100 points in multiple games in a row. Like that, for the first time in his career as a pro, with or without Kyrie, they went 3 straight games without scoring 100. He was rolling. The role players got going. Yes, Boston didn't have as much of a sense of urgency, and that leads to this. That leads to that type of result. The question I posit is this. Is Boston still an all-time great team? And I think the answer might be, are they eligible if they win tonight, but ineligible if they lose tonight? In which case, if that's the case, then the answer is no, they're not. If whether or not you're an all-time great team it's like, well, if they win the finals in 5 and gentlemen sweep, then we call game 3 or game 4 a blip. But if they lose tonight and win in 6, they're now disqualified from all-time legendary team status. Like, I just want to, does that sound about right?
Their differential moved just a little bit.
Yes.
In a 38-point loss, but not enough to knock them out of the top 5.
No.
So I think this was just a blip, and I assume they're going to win tonight, so we can put historical greatness back on the board.
So you're saying, I mean, we don't think they're an all-time great team anyway, but if they won in 6, you don't think all the people arguing this is an all-time great team? Because what would they be, 16-4 in the playoffs?
They'd be 16-4 in the playoffs, but we've seen that before. They would be 80-22 for the regular. Like a big thing going into Game 4 was, here are the 20 lost teams in NBA history. Yep. Simmons was big on that. You talked about it. And so that's the point I'm kind of making is that this series, we now have the teams essentially tied in point differential. We know that Game 2, I thought Boston controlled throughout, but there's the what if they call the foul on the fast break. Game 3, there is the what if Luka doesn't foul out. Boston should be up in this series, but it also feels closer than a series that was 3-0 to start with, if that makes sense.
What was that feeling like at 3-0?
What do you mean?
What was it feeling like?
No, Brew, I'm not going to...
It was a close sweep.
No, it
That's
wasn't.
what it was. It
wasn't
exists,
even a sweep.
Nick. Admit that it exists.
This guy is still...
I agree. It was a close... It wasn't like Boston's head and shoulders ahead of them.
Celtics Nets, too.
It was close, yes. Absolutely. Lakers Nuggets.
Meanwhile, the Celtics' best player continues his mediocre run. Another
mediocre might be too strong.
Game in the teens. 15 points for Tatum before sitting for the entire fourth quarter. Here he is after the game.
Just not to harp on it,